Tell me what the hell are you scared of when in the end the only thing
Where's
that's
the
up
love? Right here on
love's
this
in your
podcast.
hand.
Welcome to Love
Sometimes
Drops,
it's up to
where your
us to have the
hosts
things
and
that
One Love
together before.
ambassadors,
Never be
Charles
second
and
when
Diane,
always
will
together
share love,
always doing it
hope,
teamwork
and
that takes the
inspirational
sweetest of
topics
us life.
taken from
Always
their
gives
journey
birth to
and
one
world
child. All of
events.
the
We
challenges
will
of
also
life.
include on location recordings and
Never
special
become
pop up
so.
guests from cool
Whether big or
places
small,
all around the world.
love never
So sit back,
felt so.
relax, and enjoy the show.
Whether big or small, love never fails. Oh, love it conquers all. Love never fails.
Welcome to this edition of Love Drop Podcast. I am so excited about this guest. He is just an awesome human being. I mean, he is freaking awesome. And if you know, you know. And so I was introduced to this guest again on LinkedIn. We came together the first time we ever met virtually. His daughter came into the screen. I think we were in Spain at the time, and just seeing the interaction between him and his daughter really inspired where we're going today in this conversation. But before I get ahead of myself, I'm going to pass it over to Charles and let him introduce our guest to you, our wonderful audience.
Thank you, Diane. Alden Darville is an author, speaker, CEO, and founder of Heart to Heart, H2H. He's also a consciousness coach. He's virtually joining us today by way of Canada. We're looking forward to discussing the frequency of fatherhood today. And without further ado, Alden, welcome to the Love Drops podcast. You have the mic.
Thank you so much, Charles. I am so happy to be here. Diane, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm so looking forward to sitting down with you guys and letting this conversation just flow in a manner that I think you guys originally intended your podcast to be. One that's full of love, kindness, and just allowing things to be. I'm super excited to be here.
Yes, awesome. So let's go ahead and dive in to our topic. We're talking about the frequency of fatherhood. And if our audience are in any way familiar with you, then they know, just the importance of frequency in your life, in your journey. So let's talk about it because I know that you're a mature father. So there has to be a story to your frequency of fatherhood. So let's get it.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. I am an older father. I met my wife 16 years ago, and we sort of came together. She thought I was younger, and I thought she was older. That's the honest God. In fact, we decided not even to discuss age in the very beginning. After we dated for a few weeks, we were coming to this very conclusion that the age diaspora was there. So we decided to discuss it. And I said, and we had a very frank conversation, to be honest with you, after about 5 or 6 weeks of dating. I said, look, here is the deal. I like you, you like me, but here's the deal. I'm older. I'm going to die first. I'm going to get sick. It's not going to be the same. We're going to have different physical outcomes with our lives. Nobody knows. Maybe you guys already know what I'm talking about.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
and I said to her, I tell you what, why don't we take a month off? We'll take a month off. And if this is something you still want to do, I'm all there. Like we can do this. If this is something you still want to do, but I want you to seriously think about it. Things are going to change. I'm going to change. Sex is going to change. Everything is going to change at some point. So we did. We took a break, and then she came out to a barbecue to my house. I was living in the woods in this big old timber frame home with 130 acres. And if you could put 130 acres, like if this white thing here behind me, that space was my plot of 130 acres, you could put a dot right in the middle. And that's where I put my little timber frame. No running water, no electricity, just lots of books and hardwood, a wood stove, I had another residence, but that was being used as a business at the time. So she said, okay, we came back after I invited her. We had a barbecue and we sat down, we had a discussion about what we're doing. And she says, okay, I want to do this. I said, great, I want to do this as well. But she says, I have a demand. And I said, what is that? She goes, I want to have a family. I said, done. So I became a dad at 58.
Wait, say that again.
I became a dad at 58. I didn't
Well,
have gray hair before I became a dad. I didn't have gray hair. You saw pictures of me holding her. My hair is black. She'll be 8 next month.
whoa, so
So
I think the frequency grades you. That's number one. Number two, just kind of circling back, your home sounded like The Shack. When I say The Shack, there's a book written,
I
called The
know.
Shack, and that sounds like where you were living. So here's my question before we continue on. Was it a test bringing her out to your place in the wood? Was it a test to see how she would respond, or what was that about?
My wife is absolutely amazing because in the world of spirituality and knowing and all of that stuff, she's not one of those people that goes around talk about how great she is and what she does. What she just does.
Yeah,
She just
love it.
is.
Love it.
And to me, that was extremely attractive. And in fact, even in those first early months, I didn't even quite get it. But every single day that I spend with her, I look at her and say, you're like some sort of crazy witch. And her mother's the same way. Her mother's the same way. Her mother's a witch, and
Oh,
these
wow.
women can do anything. These women can do
Okay, you have to define,
anything.
you're gonna have to back up and define which, because you got to freak out all my listeners. What do you
Well,
mean?
I think, yeah. But what I mean by witch is what just a wise woman who's way ahead
Yeah,
of themselves, who make tinctures in the woods. That's who I'm talking about. They heal, they're natural healers. They just basically live a lifestyle where it's basically nature can provide.
yes,
Nature can provide.
yes,
And I
yes.
think that's where we nailed witches because we didn't quite understand. We lost so much knowledge, and the witches maintained that knowledge.
Just going back again, witches, wise women. We all have our phrases on things because I
Sure.
promise you, it
Mhm.
will totally freak people out. And we've seen your wife, we've met her. There is no black cape or pointed hat. She was not flying around the room with the broom. She's actually a beautiful human being with such bright light. I'm just putting that
Yeah.
disclaimer out there because people get caught up on things and it's sad and it's theirs, but I totally 100% go with the wise woman because I saw it. So back to you in
Mhm.
fatherhood, how did that look? Tell us about your fatherhood journey and just the way it changed you.
First of all, it is completely life altering. But if you think about, because I'm a boomer, if you think about my upbringing, and I think we can't talk about my kid until we talk about my upbringing and what I had to go through. I mean, if we look at my dad would be basically 99 now. And I grew up, as a First Nation person growing up in a white neighborhood. And my parents were actually divorced, which is basically back in the 60s, that was not a cool thing, back in the early 60s and 70s. And my dad, he came from the quiet generation. So, we basically, the quiet generation, they saw way too much. They did not know how to process their feelings. They did certain things with a heavy hand, and that's just the way it was. And because he grew up in a small island in the Bahamas, he was basically on a fishing boat, left school when he was 6 years old. He grew up on a fishing boat, and then when he was old enough, he went to England because he wanted to fight in the war. However, he was just a little bit too young, so he went to the Merchant Navy. So came back here, such a good man, good family, but hard, a hard man who used foul language around us growing up and was tough. Which made sense when he met my mother. She was also born on an island, also left school very early. She's a First Nations person, and her mother did not want her going to a residential school. So say they took her out of school. So here I basically was raised by two quiet generation people that were poor, grew up on islands, and basically in very sparse and moved to the mainland here in Nova Scotia, and that's where they met. Now, my mother, she did not adjust well. I mean, we could talk about her for ever and ever and ever. And she ended up leaving when I was 11 years old through no fault of her own. I intellectualized this as an adult later on in life.
Okay.
So, and then when you're raised by a very tough man from that point on, so you're growing up, Marcus Aurelius says, show me the child at 7 and I'll show you the human being they're going to be. So when you look at the differences that we had when I was before the age of 7, what I had to go through with parents disagreeing quite often, lots of yelling, lots of screaming, some uncertainty, this affects who we are as boomers,
Okay.
as kids are, because we're very, very vulnerable between 1 and 7. So that's basically who we become. Those things get seared into our DNA. They get seared into our DNA, and they don't actually get removed unless you've had a magical experience or you seek a lot of therapy. My father was a tough man, but he had a very, very, very large sense of himself when it came to right and wrong. It was right and there was wrong. You worked hard, you did what was right, and you didn't do what was wrong, and you paid attention, you respected your elders, all that stuff,
Right.
right? That allowed us baby boomers to go out and create a mental health sector that is never before had been seen
Right.
than what we have, because we created basically the self-help book industry,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
boomers. There was none. I mean, it was Dr. Spock and maybe a few other motivational speakers, but not much. Not like what we have today.
Exactly.
As someone who owned a bookstore, I could tell you I could fill my store just with self-help books.
Right.
So I had to learn some important lessons.
Mm-hmm.
As a boomer, I tend to handle things a certain way, where my wife, who's Gen X, has a completely different way. My wife is highly empathic, and she's so good. Like, she's so good. She like, when I want to kick over some chairs, she just does this to me. Like, I don't know if you can see my hand, but she just puts her hand like that. So I don't escalate. And then she translates. This is how it began until I started learning myself,
Right.
because she taught me more. And we discussed this earlier. And when we discussed we were going to have a child, we said we wanted to be the cycle breakers. We wanted to do things differently than what we grew up with.
Okay.
So we said we have to be the cycle bearers. And I said, here's one thing all I ask. I said, I do not want this kid growing up in a state of fear. No fear whatsoever.
Yes.
Right? So we said, okay, so we will not create a household of fear. We won't create a household where there's yelling. What we'll do is we'll be patient. Now, as you know, parenthood, you're going to lose your mind every now and then.
Of
And I
course.
would certainly do that. And that's when Nicola would give me this hand where
So the
just
hand motion is like kind of just calm down. Just
calm
calm
down,
down. Yeah.
right? Right? It's calm down. It's not the end of the world. Remember the work that we've done with this one. Let's not do it. So whenever we go out in the world now, and this is what I love, we all have a sense of fear, especially as boomers. We've been taught that if you don't do this, don't do that, the very worst can happen.
Oh, yes.
So we're
Yeah.
always looked at fear as a motivator.
Right.
And that's not any way to live your life. You might do very well. The boomers did very well. We did very well in real estate. We did well in education. We did all those things.
Right.
We did so well. We live in a country that is highly educated, that does very well, that's a global leader in the world as far as what we like to think is being one of the nicest countries in the world.
Okay.
Even
So,
that is a set of conditioning, if you think
yeah.
about it.
Right.
But I like to believe that because of the changes that we made, by also taking the good values that we got from our parents,
Mm-hmm.
my dad raised 5 kids. Think about that. My dad raised 5 kids, and he was a tough, tough man who had his own problems. Now, when I can intellectualize that as an adult, I look back at it and say, holy God, Dad, like you talked about earlier, Dad, I cannot believe what you did.
Mm-hmm.
What you did, regardless of how scarred my DNA was for whatever reasons, it does not take away from the fact that my father raised 5 good kids, gave everybody the opportunity to have a college degree. Got 2 brothers who are no longer with me, but both engineers, sisters that are rocking it, doing amazing stuff on their own right, business people, everything. So we were given a lot
That's
of
phenomenal.
opportunity, because my father was the type of person who worked 2 jobs as well. He had to. So
Okay.
he had to work 2 jobs. So imagine that. We have him raising 5 kids at home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even the youngest. I'm 11. My sister's 9. And we're being raised by this man who's working 2 jobs,
Hmm.
who had to run the household with an iron fist,
Right.
right? And always
So,
had people here to look after us, to make sure that we were well fed, well cared for. when I look back at it, I say to myself, I could not have done that.
Wow. I want to ask the question here. So, do
Mm.
you think that that had an impact on your delay of becoming a father? Did you always want to be a dad, or was there a part of you that was like, I can leave that box unchecked?
Yes, I can honestly say that I wanted to be a dad at one point. And when I thought I was going to be a dad, I was actually down. I was doing a lot of traveling. I worked in the States for 5 years. And by the time I came back here and settled down, and I had opened up a cafe slash bookstore, at that point, I was in my late 30s, and I was sort of like saying, okay, I think I could, we're at that deadline right now where I got to think I have to have a child.
Okay.
And that was always there. It's just that it never worked out. And I don't think I was quite ready up until the point I was at least 30 years old. I don't think I was quite ready. So I wasn't ready. And then when you decide to yourself, okay, I'm open, the opportunities are less because you're a little bit older. And then when Nicola and I met, it was like, oh, it just checked all the boxes. This is great. I've always been unconventional. My family and friends were like, "What? Excuse me, what?" And I said, yeah, 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 yeah. We're having a child, and honestly, it's changed my life in ways that I think parents can fully understand. But it's like for me, being at that age and understanding that my life was never going to be the same again, and I really just didn't know it because you're on 24/7.
Yeah.
Like you're on all the time. And if you're not, she's in sleeping, you're still thinking about what, what she could
Yeah.
do, what you did during the day with her. It's just amazing. But at the same time, it's so rewarding to see a confident kid who excels in school. And we told our little Inez, we said, you're going to learn more at home than you're going to learn at school, at least for the first 7 or 8 years of your schooling. And then you're going to learn some good practical knowledge in school. But the stuff that's really going to take you over the top is the stuff that you're going to learn here at home.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
she already exceeds in school. She's a little bit of a nerd. She loves being called a nerd. She understands factually. She can pull stuff out of a book that just blows our mind. My wife reads to her every single night.
Awesome.
No, that is fantastic.
Every single night.
Awesome.
And this is only recently changed. She doesn't need to wake up in the night and come jump into our bed. We have this thing where we do a headbutt nose kiss whenever I drop her off at school. That's regulated to inside the car now rather than
Yeah.
Yeah,
she
Yeah.
calls me bra, like,
Cause you what?
bra.
Bruh.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Bra.
It's so
Like,
good that you guys are laying down such a strong foundation for her to build on. And looking back from whence you came, you're saying, hey, there's better, and I want better for my child. I want better. And you're showing it, doing it, and passing it on. And she's gravitating towards it, brah.
Bruh.
well,
Right.
you're so right. And one of the things that I really enjoy about it's also extremely frightening is that when we go to an airport and we go to, say, for instance, anywhere where there's a lot of crowded people, she
Mhm.
will just walk in front of us without looking back. Like even the first snowstorm, I've got a video of her. The first snowstorm, she's only 2 years old. We're walking, we have like 250 acres here,
Okay.
and she'll walk up into the forest. There's a picture of her where she's this far up for her into snow, like up to her chest, walking through this very powdery snow. And she's not even looking behind. We just stop and we look, we'll see how far she will go. Now,
Right.
to me, that's giving her the safety. She feels so safe
Mm.
that she does not have to worry about. This kid's not afraid of the dark. This kid is not afraid of going into, like, we were in Madrid. She wants to figure out the subway system there, and she's taking us to the colors and whatnot. This kid is so brave. Well, we consider to be brave, but I'm not sure if she's really brave or she just doesn't have the fear. I don't have any understanding of this, and I really
Right.
need an adult to show me. We've given her the tools to, hey, go out there and try to figure that out.
Wow.
Hmm.
Inez sounds like a real bumblebee. And I say that because a bumblebee doesn't know that it's not supposed to fly. So it flies. And so she sounds like a real bumblebee. She sounds like, hey, I'm supposed to be afraid
Yeah.
because I'm not. right? But then it goes back to words, and it goes back to the frequency of you and your wife, because you said we're going to create a space where she will not have to fear. And the fact that she is such a fearless little 8-year-old is confirmation that that space has been created. Just listen, you speak. She is the child that came for you, because you said things like, "Oh, I'm going to be older." I mean, here's the reality, right? If you had her at 58, okay, when she's 20, you're 78. And so that's an age difference. And like with you and your wife, it's kind of similar with Charles and I. The only difference is there are no kids. The factory were totally closed. He came in with his kids. I came in with my kids. We were, blended, but age was a factor. There's an age difference here, probably similar to you and your wife. But here's the thing, it's beautiful to see such a wonderful creation, such a chance at fatherhood, even at 58, by choice and, intentions, just very intentional, a very intentional choice to say yes to fatherhood at 58. So kudos
Yeah.
to you.
Yes.
Inez was planned and we intended. Like we put our intentions out there to the universe of what we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And they started off really quite simply, like just a healthy, happy child. One in a world where we know that our world is getting to be in such a state where there's so much fear right now and unsettlement. We don't want her to have
Right.
to experience that. That takes a lot more patience, because when you're saying like no fear,
Yeah.
and my wife is genius with this book, Dr. Zeus, this All the Places You'll Go.
Oh, yeah.
My Inez can almost recite this whole book, because to me that is exactly what we want to make sure that she does. Not to
Awesome.
go down those sketchy streets if she feels that, she's got a tingle in her gut about not going down.
Right.
We need her to show some discernment. We need her to look both ways before she crosses the street,
Yes.
because we're saying, okay, don't get me wrong, we all have survival fear. We
Yes.
just don't want to live in that survival fear, because if we live in
Exactly.
that survival fear, we are living in a state of anxiety. And when you're in a state of anxiety, you're not living in the now. You're living in the future
Exactly.
of things that could go bad, or you're dealing from your past where things have gone bad, and you expect your every next step to be super cautious due to the fact of whatever happened back there. So
Exactly.
it is very, very, very interesting for her, for us, not to have that, to be able to be cycle breakers, and to show her
Yes.
that you're going to go through a world where you're going to have more of command of what happens to you out there than what we did, because you are going to be more confident, you're going to be healthier, and you're not going to look at yourself in a situation where you says, well, I cannot do that, because you don't have those doubts. Now, don't get me wrong.
Yes.
She's going to have doubts. There's going to be other things that are going to matter to her, but we've given her, I believe, the tools to be able to look and get past those first 7 years, because those first 7 years are everything.
Yeah.
I mean, if a lion pops out of your wall when you're 5 years old, they have no idea to distinguish whether that's real or not real. That's where our brain is. You're still
Right.
close to the other side. Like you're
Right.
really still close to the other side. And then one of the things that really drives me nuts is watching these videos of parents scaring their 2 and 3 year olds. It scares these kids. Like, what are you doing
Mhm,
Right.
mhm.
to
Right.
your child?
Right. That's the safe zone. Home is the safe zone. You, as the parents, are the safety keepers. And so, if you scare me and if home is scary, then yeah, you're already to a bad foundation, which by just listening, to your journey is not the case with sweet Inez, because of you and your beautiful, wise woman wife. I mean, we could go
Mhm.
on and on and on for sure, but your frequency of fatherhood just really appears to be in alignment to exactly what your baby girl needs.
Mhm.
And it will come back to you in great rewards. It will come back to you in great rewards. So, as we're wrapping up, what love drop would you like to leave with our listeners?
Let go of some fear, because when you can open your heart, and one of the things that I do a lot is I get people to, if they can let go,
Mm-hmm.
the act of letting go and opening your heart chakra
Mm-hmm.
almost is a simultaneous event.
Mm.
And because we are living in fear in such crazy times right now, where we're
Mm-hmm.
basically in survival mode,
Right.
you're only living in your lower chakras.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get to that higher place, you're going to have to bridge that gap in your heart. And
Yeah,
basically, that is where all the magic happens.
that's good.
That is so
That's
true.
good.
And I think it will be universally accepted by more today than it was in yesteryear. And we need that. We really need it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're on the express as far as consciousness and awareness shift is happening now. Not for everybody, but certainly for those who are waking up.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And I believe that we're also going to see another major awakening happening this year. So we are living in extraordinary times.
for
And
sure.
please recognize that these times that we are currently living in, we've never seen before. History has never seen this before, at least as far as the magnitude.
Oh, yeah, we're shifting and we are shifting. And so we want to just really thank you for your time. It's non-refundable. We're putting all your links in our narrative. We're asking our listeners to check out Alden and his story and just his offerings to the world. They're so phenomenal. One of the things that he also does is he's a videographer. So, yeah, just check out what it is that he's doing in the world. Support him. You can support him even by sharing. If this episode resonated, please share with everyone you know. And if the podcast hits a place of resonance for you, please subscribe and share it as well. And as Charles and I always say when we close out,
One
one love.
love.
No, never a second will I waste, never an opportunity to taste the sweetness of this life.
Thank you for tuning in to the Love Drops podcast.
All of the challenges
Be sure to
of
follow this
life.
podcast and share the love with everyone you know.
Love it
Until
comes
next
so.
time, this is
Whether
Charles
big or small,
and Diane
love never,
signing off.
love never,
One love.
love it conquers all. Whether big or small, love never fails. Oh, love never, love it conquers all. Love never